Hey everyone, Red Rebel Jeff Jones here. So, in this video, I want to talk about the shooting that took place recently in the Catholic school in Minneapolis. Now, it is a horrific tragedy, and my condolences, my thoughts, my prayers go out to the families of the victims as well as those injured in this tragedy. I do wish those injured a quick and speedy recovery. So, the story, if you've been living under a rock for the last couple of days, was 23-year-old Robert Westman went into the Annunciation, I'm probably getting that wrong, Catholic school in Minneapolis and started shooting during the beginning of year mass that they have. He shot through the windows of the church section of the school where they had the mass, and he killed two people, an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and injured at least 17 more. Now, all those who are injured, as we just read a couple of hours ago, they are expected to be okay. They're expected to survive. It's a horrific tragedy, and the discussion has been kind of, I will say, predictable in a lot of ways. So, who's the killer? And what do we know about him? The killer is 23-year-old Robert Westman. Now, Robert did identify as trans and had legally changed his name to Robin. The reason I'm using his original name is, and using he, him pronouns to describe him when he was identified as a trans woman, is he definitely does not deserve any kind of respect in that kind of way. But as much disrespect to this piece of garbage as you can get is what he deserves after what he did. Now, there's a lot of discussion on motive, and let's just say he wasn't particularly secretive about his possible motives and the ideology that fueled him. Because he wrote it pretty much all down on his gun. This is something that I've been noticing, that they're writing stuff on their weapons, and several of the pictures of his weapons that I think he took himself have gone out on social media and say some pretty disgusting things. They say some anti-Trump things, but especially anti-Semitic things. One being, and I do apologize for anyone listening if this is triggering in some way. One of the statements written on one of the pieces of his gun was 6 million wasn't enough. Obviously referring to the Holocaust, saying that there should have been more Jews killed. Disgusting. Now, other than that, bits of his journal have been released. Now, okay, he released a YouTube video that was scheduled to go up kind of at the same time he was doing the shooting. Now, YouTube has, of course, removed the video, but not before a lot of people caught it and have been sharing what has been said in the video all over. And a good chunk of it is actually his journal that he wrote. I chose some pretty interesting things about how he felt about being trans. He describes himself as being brainwashed to be trans. Two quotes that I have kind of just written down here, but this is not really telling, I think. He says, I wish I never brainwashed myself. And I'm tired of being trans. So I think that kind of goes into maybe describing his mindset at the time. That this was a suicidal act because he did end up turning the gun on himself and killing himself afterwards. Now, all those on the left, as we can imagine, has gone straight to, oh, it's about guns. I don't think that argument, whenever I hear it these days, I remember making a video ages ago on guns. Every time I hear that argument now, it's starting to really show that they're not interested in looking at kind of ideologies or particularly trying to understand why school shooters or mass shooters do these actions. And I think it's important to find that out because I think the mental health situation here, I think, is important to raise. But I don't think the Democrats care. They say they care, but I don't think it does. Now, a lot of people have asked, why did he target a Catholic school when he was clearly more interested in kind of anti-Jew hatred? I suspect, now this is just me putting out my own theory here, I suspect he wanted to go for a Jewish school. However, so the problem was Jewish schools actually have protection at them. I do know many Jewish schools in America have armed guards because Jewish schools, sadly enough, are actually the top targets for mass shooters. Well, for school shooters, and I think when he was planning this, because he goes kind of deep into planning it in the journal, I think it's very clear he wanted to do a Jewish school. He wanted to do this at a Jewish school, but kind of quickly he couldn't because he stopped well before he got even near the door. So he changed tack and went to a Catholic school, knowing that would be not as heavily defended. So that's just kind of my theory. What whatever you guys think of that, leave the comments down below. Kind of, it's something definitely I think that's worth some discussion, but I do think a little bit it's a bit early to talk about that kind of stuff. Although it's just what I think at the moment is kind of my raw thoughts on this. It's a tragedy. I think we all wish for the speedy recovery of those injured, and our condolences go out to the families of those killed. There's a lot of trends showing up around this that I think needs to be looked at. But I think the fact that, especially the mainstream media, aren't even bringing up the fact that the shooter was trans is telling you a lot. They're trying to set up a narrative that doesn't match the reality. What do you guys think? Share your thoughts with me in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear them. And if you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and do not forget to subscribe to keep up with my latest videos. This really is a tragedy and work needs to be done. Definitely. Is the political will there to do something about this? I don't think so. Which is a tragedy. But that's how life is these days. Politics gets in the way of everything.